This isn't a fluctuation. We're more than 4,000 teachers down. And what we've learned this week is the real cost of teacher shortages. And it got rather drowned out by the First Minister's referendum plans. But Education Scotland made clear that the recruitment crisis we face is damaging the quality of education in Scotland, not just in primary school, but in secondary school too. And according to the head of School Leaders Scotland, the shortage is such that head teachers are having to take on staff not because they're right for the job, but because they're the only ones available. Does the First Minister think that this is a decent return for 10 years of SNP government? First Minister.
Well, we have plenty of evidence of improving standards in our schools. I can point to the record exam passes that young people are achieving in our schools. I can point to the record positive destinations of young people leaving our schools, going into employment, further education or training. I can point to the beginning of the closing of the attainment gap, although I readily recognise there is much more work to do. Yes, we have a challenge when it comes to recruitment of teachers in particular areas, and that's not unique to Scotland. But what we are doing, as I set out in my previous answer, is taking a range of actions to ensure that we meet that challenge. So we will continue to focus on exactly that. The programme of reform in education, I've already mentioned the additional funding going direct to head teachers, the attainment challenge focusing on literacy and numeracy, the introduction, which I know not everybody in this chamber agrees with, of national assessment so that we can publish robust information about the performance in our schools and measure the improvements that we are taking. This is a comprehensive programme of reform, and I and the Deputy First Minister will continue to be absolutely focused on delivering it.
Ruth Davidson.
The First Minister is going through actions that are being taken, but that's only necessary because her government has been asleep at the wheel for the last decade. And the real question here is about this government's priorities. This week, Sir Tom Hunter wrote in a national newspaper setting out some of the positive steps that are finally being taken, like leadership development for head teachers to ensure we get better leaders in our schools. And he also talks up the work that's being done by Skills Development Scotland to help link up young people with employers. But he finished his piece with this. Let me read it to you. Scotland faces challenges, so I ask, is independence our biggest priority? And Sir Tom is, groan if you like, but Sir Tom is only asking the question that a lot of people want answered. Separation or education? Which is it, First Minister?
First Minister.
Firstly, in terms of education, I know there are many things that Ruth Davidson doesn't like to acknowledge. For example, the around 30% increase in higher passes since 2007, the 90% of young people going into positive destinations, the improvement we are seeing in closing the attainment gap, the increase in early years and childcare, which is so crucial to closing that attainment gap in schools, the additional resources going into the hands of head teachers. And yes, as Ruth Davidson has just spoken about, the extra support, which John Swinney was talking about just this very week, to head teachers, making sure we've got the best leadership in our schools. But let's come back to this point about who is concentrating on these matters and who, at every opportunity, tries to shoehorn in the reference to the Constitution. I don't know. I don't know how Ruth Davidson spends her week when she's not appearing in comedy shows or talking about independence. Here's just some of the things I do in an average week. £10 million to support a food and drink sector, signing an economic partnership agreement with Bavaria. This is just the last few days. Chairing a cabinet meeting that decides the content of our social security bill, that continues work on our 2018 budget plans, that talks about what we're doing to reduce cancer waiting times, finalising the mental health strategy, which will be published this very day, convening a meeting with the Social Security Minister to talk about our new social security agency, announcing 300 new jobs in the city of Glasgow, talking to manufacturing companies about how we boost that sector of our economy. Reviewing, yes, with the Deputy First Minister, our education reform programme. Talking to the Transport Scotland and the Transport Minister about the Queensferry crossing. I could go on, Presiding Officer, but I know I'm running out of time. So let me focus on some of the things other ministers have been doing while the opposition talk about their priorities. The Health Secretary, funding to widen access to medical schools, funding to increase cervical cancer screening. The Education Secretary, funding for support for head teachers. The Public Health Minister, extending the Family Nurse Partnership. The Children's Minister, setting out plans to double childcare. And of course, last but not least, the Community Secretary, support for young homeless people who are having their housing benefit removed by the Conservative government at Westminster. So I'll take no lectures. I'll take no lectures about the day job. It's just a pity so much of our day job is spent cleaning up the mess made by a Tory government.
Presiding Officer, the First Minister talks about priorities. Now, is she really coming here? I know she's had a tough week and I know it's getting worse, but is she really coming here to say, after forcing a two-day debate on independence, forcing through a referendum that against the wishes of the people of Scotland, forcing through a vote on that she's going to stand here and still say that education is her priority, where her government hasn't debated education on government time in this chamber since October? How does she answer that? No education since October, independence every single day.
First Minister.
Because the difference between this government and the Tories is that they debate and we deliver. 120. Tell Ruth Davidson what we've delivered in government time and with government money. £120 million for head teachers to improve standards in our schools. So I'll continue to allow Ruth Davidson and the Tories to debate with each other. I'll go on with delivering for the people of Scotland.